Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the WCTV studio for what should be a great edition of Time Maroon Sports Show. It's been a while. It has been about 3 months since we have been here, but of course, no sports have been going on that much except you're seeing a lot of stuff reopen, like the UFC is going, NASCAR is going. That's been a lot of fun so far, especially that one race in which Chase Elliott and Joey Logano again the wreck, allowing Brad Keselowski to win, and a whole lot more, like European soccer's going, Korean baseball. That's been getting a lot of attention. Unfortunately, I don't think the MLB will be happening this year because of how uncooperable the owners have been. But because we have all been bored in quarantine, what have most of us been doing? Playing sports video games, of course. Why, today I'm doing a very special episode of Time Maroon Sports Show. It's the top 10 PlayStation 2 sports games, as noted on your screen. I have a bag filled up with PlayStation 2 sports games in here, courtesy of Highland Horn. Subscribe to the Highland Horn Sports Network, where this talk show has been for the last few weeks, as well as here on WCTV. So without further ado, the top 10 PlayStation 2 sports games right now. As you can tell, and leading things off, NHL 2002 with Mario Lemieux on the cover. It's the best NHL game on the PlayStation 2. It gets so much stuff right and is aged really well. It's one of the games that many people consider to be one of the best hockey games of all time, including 94 and 2004, two classics too. And of course, playing 2020 is pretty awesome. Doesn't really feel like a nostalgia trip, but rather a game to be grateful for. Why? Well, a lot of the things you see on the screen, including the breakaway, save, and hit cam. Like if you get on a breakaway, the camera zooms in and everything gets more dramatic. Save cam, when the goaltender makes a great save. Of course, this was during the era of Martin Brodeur, Dominik Hasek, and Patrick Waugh. And of course, the hit cam, in which you get a big hit, which happens a lot. Of course, the commentary is led by longtime Hockey Night in Canada announcer Jim Houston with Don Taylor. Don Taylor is very funny, and they say a lot of jokes. There was the shootout mode, in which you just play a shootout. There's a season mode and playoffs mode, and during this time of the virus, I've been playing the postseason in that game. NHL cards and unlockables are my favorite part of it. Why? Because, well, it's simple. You get to unlock brand new things, brand new crazy things. You can unlock player stuff. You can play in a mile-wide rink. The voices can sound like chipmunks, and a lot more. And of course, customizable celebrations are there. EA Sports Game Story helps you follow the game. The emotion meter is a thing. Of course, that means if you're on the road and have full team emotion, the crowd will be very silent and you'll feel a lot of energy on your team. You can, of course, create a player and create a team. Of course, the NHL cards are a blast with sumo hockey, mini hockey, and of course, last man standing, in which if you get checked, you're down to the ground and you have to wait till everything restarts. NHL 2002 is definitely a great game, and a lot of stuff helps you come back to it. Even in 2020, after about 19 years, this game has been around. Such a classic, folks. So after number 10, we're going to have to go to our number 9 spot on our list. Which one is it? It's NASCAR Thunder 2004 with Tony Stewart on the cover. This is one of the best NASCAR games of all time. I think a lot of people can agree on that. It gets to a lot of fans who aren't really into the NASCAR series, and it's just a lot of fun. I mean, you have the ally and rival system. Like, for instance, you become allies with someone if you draft them and pass them. And you become rivals if you hit them. And once you become rivals, it's not like some silly little gimmick. No, what happens if they'll try to block you or hit you? And as someone who kind of gets into a lot of crashes in NASCAR Thunder, I make way more rivals than allies. There's career mode, in which you can have a 3-number sponsor. In fact, there's a little example of how great this game is right there. Tony Stewart right there. But the career mode is, see, look at all those crashes. Pretty fun. But anyways, career mode is when you could get all these sponsors or for you to get on your car. You can have 3-digit numbers so much and stuff. And of course, that's really fun. There's the scenarios from the 2002 season that you can reenact. And of course, there is MRN, Motor Racing Network, that brings you a lot of commentary before the game, led by Joe Moore and the late Barney Hall. Of course, they bring a lot of insight. The intro is good. You get flyovers, the end of the anthem. The presentation, NASCAR Thunder, is very great. And unfortunately, this was the very last NASCAR Thunder game ever made because, of course, 2005, they rebranded to NASCAR 2005 Chase for the Cup. And even though that's a great game, you cannot replicate how great NASCAR Thunder 2004 is. So now we're going to go to our number 8 spot. Which one is it? It is, let's check, right here. MVP Baseball 2004 with the machine, Albert Pujols, on the cover. And of course, MVP Baseball was a new thing that EA Sports did because they had done triple play baseball, and the transition of it from PS1 PS2 was not that good. So in 2003, they rebranded to MVP Baseball, and MVP Baseball 2003 was a great game. MVP 2004 was even better. Why? Because you had the pure swing system in which you could use the analog stick, which adds up to the good analog gameplay. And of course, there is a pitching meter, which was there the year before. The more you hold down the pitching meter, of course, the gameplay looks a little laggy right there, but yeah, the more you hold down the pitching meter, the more power it's going to be, but the least accurate it's going to be, though. Of course, you can't talk about this game without, of course, talking about big play control. Once again, the right analog stick plays a big role once again. Of course, as the right analog stick allows you to dive, jump, slide, or take out the player, which is definitely fun to do for sure. And of course, not just that, but the franchise mode. You could play 120 years. Look at Kenny Lofton right there, former Cleveland Indian, making a great play with a big play control, using that right analog stick to perfection. A 120-year dynasty mode, you can play as AA and AAA teams. It's a lot of fun. And you got the Giants announcers, Dwayne Kuiper and Mike Krukow. Of course, they have been announcing the Giants for a long time, and they give a lot of insight talking about the players from the 2003 season. And just a lot to love about MVP 2004. Such a great game. So now, number 7 on the list is, spoiler alert, the first Madden on it. Madden 2003 with Marshall Faulk on the cover. A lot of things helped this game. I mean, Madden 2002 was a great game, but Madden 2003 was better. I mean, if they did what Madden does nowadays and copy and paste the same game, Madden 2003 would have been a good game. But this, they just enhanced everything. They enhanced the franchise mode. They enhanced the gameplay. Such a drastic difference. And look at that. You get the weather in this game, something that you never got in Madden 2002. You can ask Madden for a play on defense. Go on Coach Cam on special teams or defense, something you couldn't do before. And it's just very fun to look at it. And of course, this was the first game that you could play online. And yeah, no ultimate team, none of that. You just played online. And of course, this introduced the 4-6 defense. And my favorite play in the game is the halfback pass, in which, in this case, Quincy Carter would toss it to Emmitt Smith, and Emmitt Smith would throw to one of those guys. Oh, look at Brian Dawkins with that INT. Great play right there. And, of course, the one game mode that made this game great was Minicamp. Minicamp was when you could get on the Madden Cruiser, because remember, John Madden does not take flights. And you could go all across the country doing these mini games. You could swat passes, you could throw through tires. You could run for a touchdown. There was no receiving, however, but you could play linebacker and you could play D-line. And, of course, this really helps sharpen your skills and become a much more skilled Madden player. Just a lot of great stuff here. Really helped out. So now comes number 6. It's another football game. It is going to be NCAA Football 2005 with Larry Fitzgerald on the cover. Of course, the one thing that made NCAA 2005 a great game was the home field advantage. What happened was that the crowd would get so psyched up, and you'd have the top 25 places to play. So, for instance, if you're going to a little school, nothing would happen that much if you were on the road. But if you're going up against, I don't know, Ohio State, schools like Penn State or Auburn or Alabama, schools that really take college football seriously, oh boy, it would be very frustrating. If you would audibilize, sometimes it wouldn't work because of the sheer noise of the crowd. You could combat this by using this thing called the matchup stick. And the matchup stick was also another good addition of the right analog stick. You could look at the linemen against linemen, receivers against the cornerbacks, running back against the linebackers, and just a lot of stuff in there. And of course, Dynasty mode. You could see the BCS. Yes, BCS, folks. That used to be a thing. Very hard to believe. And there was a Heisman watch in which you could have like the top 5 players in the Heisman. You could, of course, look at stats. But however, the Heisman race, unlike in years past in which it would be like once after week 8, it would be the whole week. You would get Sports Illustrated, and you could see like what they were up to and what they were talking about. There was a Pontiac College Classics in which you could recreate such great moments. You could recreate the Doug Flutie Hail Mary. You could recreate the Stanford Band, albeit without the band. And just a lot of great stuff in this game. NCAA 2005. A lot of people will debate on what's the best NCAA game. Some will say NCAA 06 the next year. Others will say NCAA 14, which was the last one. I say NCAA 2005. Folks, we're halfway through the list. So let's get to number 5. NBA Live 2005 with Carmelo on the cover. A very young Carmelo Anthony. This was back when 2K was not the king, when there were no microtransactions, and NBA Live made a great game. I mean, you had freestyle control, freestyleware. Once again, I'm praising the right analog stick today because they really utilized it well during these games. Freestyle control, you could cross over, you could spin, you could just do any crazy moves. And of course, more dramatic dunks, bigger dunks, so much stuff. And Dynasty mode, you had emails coming from others telling you about what's been going on, and there are more signature moves in this game. I mean, look at this. Nice spin move, good jump shot, and that was a great job by Ben Wallace. Of course, this was back when the Detroit Pistons were very defensive-based. I mean, the game feels very smooth looking at it. You have like that 3 sign right where Chauncey is, which means that he's a good 3 shooter. And just a lot of defensive-based game, in my opinion. Probably because, of course, this was back when the Pistons were at their peak and had guys like Ben Wallace, of course. And right there. And, of course, All-Star Weekend is what made this game great. All-Star Weekend. You could do the rookie challenge and play as sophomore LeBron and sophomore Carmelo and go up against that year's rookie class. You could have the 3-point contest. You could have the slam dunk competition and create thousands of combinations. And you go to slam dunk school to learn about how to dunk for the slam dunk contest. So much excitement in this game. So much. And of course, you can't forget about the All-Star game either. NBA Live 2005, it might be one of the best basketball games ever made. Time to go to number 4. Spoiler alert. It's also a game from 2005. And I will try to get it. It is Madden 2005. Ray Lewis on the cover. And you know what that means? Defense, 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 defense. And you know why? The hit stick was a thing. This was when you take a guess, right analog stick it, and you could just ram into players. This made guys like Ray Lewis, Brian Dawkins, Brian Urlacher, and Sean Taylor unstoppable. If you ran right into them, you were going to have to pay. Fumbles would occur. So much. And of course, you could create a fan, just like in NCAA 2005. And if you got a good play, the fan would show up to the game. A brand new graphic engine made the players look more slim and way more realistic, and a lot more action-packed were the games. And of course, you had the franchise mode. Franchise mode was arguably at its peak by then. Why was it at its peak? Because you had Tony Bruno go all throughout his show talking about news at the time of the game and what's been going on. You can look at your weekly game plan, see what the other team's up to. You could also check emails like in NBA Live 05. And not to mention, you also could look and change your philosophy. So much fun indeed. Rushing attack was another thing. It was like the rushing drill in minicamp, except unlike then, you could play it against your friends and see what you could do, or do it against the AI. And just a lot of excitement right there. Just so much great stuff about Madden 2005. Speaking of Madden 2005, number 3, Madden 2004, Michael Vick on the cover. What was the best part about Madden 2004? Take a guess. Michael Vick. Michael Vick was unstoppable. He would destroy Bo Jackson in Tecmo Super Bowl. I am serious about that. He was that good. He could run around the defense in circles. He could take the snap, roll out to the left side. Nope, he'll scramble. Nope, he's going to pass it. He guns it deep. Big pass, touchdown. Michael Vick playing the Falcons was a death sentence. Michael Vick was such a god that modern day EA games, as much as I hate them, guess what they do? They have 99 overall Michael Vick cards, and they're unstoppable too. Now that's paying homage to such great games. Now it's only a shame that if they could do it nowadays. Speaking of things that are still in Madden, you had the Excel clock was introduced. Now, unlike nowadays in Madden, in which it's always there, you didn't have to have it, and it would automatically go down to 25 seconds if you wanted to. Yet again, you didn't have to, and the gameplay was way faster. So there were no more cutscenes in between the plays. You went straight to it, as noted right there. Of course, as a game of the Bears and the Vikings. A lot of offense, including the playmaker mode, in which you could allow the running back to run to the right side or run to the left side, and the defense wouldn't know. Or make the receiver go up or to the left or to the right. Or lead your blockers if you're the running back. And of course, owner mode was a thing in which you could customize your price, relocate your team, rename your stadium, make as much money as you can. See the expectations. See the stadium info. See the city info. Just so much. Preseason training camp's also a thing. And EA Sports Bio, which is a thing that was introduced for all 2004 games and a handful of 2005 games. And you would level up and be like perhaps a level 20 EA Sports gamer. And while it was only around for 2 years, it was still very great to have. And of course, you can't talk about these Madden games without Madden cards, which was very similar to NHL cards, except unlike NHL cards, which left, I believe, after NHL 2003, these games were, or those cards were there for a while. Number 2, MVP Baseball 2005. See it all with the EA Sports Hitter's Eye, says the back. It's the greatest baseball game ever created. Some of the key features include the owner mode, in which you could spent 30 years owning your team, which meant that you had to create your own ballpark. And as the years went on, you could make your ballpark bigger and better. You could set your prices, have promotions, upgrade your stadium, just so much. And of course, there was the EA Sports Hitter's Eye, which meant that if there was a curveball, the ball would flash red for a second and you could adjust. Or if it was a changeup, that means it would flash green. The gameplay and the hitting was definitely way better. And of course, just a lot of great stuff in this game. MVP Baseball 2005 also introduced something really exciting called batting and pitching mini games. And in batting and pitching mini games, you could hit the ball towards tractors and buses. And pitching mini games, you could play like Tetris, in which you had to hit colors with a ball. And of course, you can't forget about the greatest MVP baseball player of all time, John Dow. Now, Barry Bonds was not in MVP 2005 because I believe he was not part of the MLBPA. So all they did was get this guy named John Dow, who was pretty much Barry Bonds, but Barry Bonds was a likable and great baseball player. MVP 2005. Well, some may call it the game of John Dowd. I don't stop there. I call it one of the greatest games of all time. Now time for our honorable mentions, which include Madden 2002. Yeah, the 2-minute warning. And the Houston Texans, NFL Europe, custom leagues, and player introductions. NCAA 03 had the rivalry mode, mascot games, trophy room, campus challenge, and dynasty mode. Tiger Woods PGA Tour 2002, speed golf, new courses, unlockable players, upgrading golfers, and new golfers. NBA Live 2004 had dynasty mode, NBA Store, enhanced freestyle control, unlockables, and new commentary from the legendary Marv Albert and former Cavs coach Mike Fratello. And finally, the moment you've all been waiting for, number one. And of course, not going to delay it. ESPN NFL 2K5, the greatest football game, the greatest PlayStation 2 sports game of all time. So much is in this. There was no soundtrack in this game. Instead, there were ESPN jingles, like what you'd hear on an ESPN broadcast, including the da-da-da-da-da-da. And Dan Stevens and Peter O'Keefe are your announcers. They're some of the greatest announcers of all time. They're up there with such great announcers like Tim Kitzrow of NBA Jam, Sonny Day of Backyard Sports, and Josh Millman of Wii Sports. Their gameplay and presentation in 2K5 is just unheard of. ESPN, and it's not like nowadays in which they just pretty much throw on, a company nowadays. No, they incorporate ESPN perfectly. The gameplay is so smooth. There's no other game in which you can bounce off the lineman. There is no smoother game than this. So much. You have Chris Berman, Mel Kiper Jr., Trey Wingo, such well-known ESPN personalities talking about what's going on. And of course, you had the Dynasty mode, which had Sports Center. That's right, you could watch Sports Center, which will recap the games and stuff. You could play celebrities and their dream teams, like one of my favorite teams of all time, the Upper Darby Cheesesteaks. Yes, the Upper Darby Cheesesteaks. Look them up. They are unbelievable. You had the Crib, which was kind of like the NBA Store in NBA Live, in which you could look at all your great unlockables and stuff. And you had first-person football, in which you went inside the helmet of the players, and you went around. And there was ESPN 25th anniversary, in which you could recreate the 25 greatest moments of all time, which including the miracle of fourth down, 26. There's ESPN NFL 2K5 right there, folks. It is just hands down the greatest game of all time. So realistic, so great, so above average. You have so much stuff in it. I mean, if time permitted me to, I would have talked at least 10 more minutes about this game. ESPN NFL 2K5, sold for $20 in July of 2004. And it was unbelievable. What's not unbelievable is that we will never see games like these again. Microtransactions, of course, plague 2K. They plague EA Sports and so much more. But you know what? Maybe that's a good thing, because all these games are unbelievable. They are some of the best you will ever see. These 10 games are games you must buy. These 10 games right here, if you don't own them, you need to now. That's all for the Tommy Maroon Sports Show. I can't wait to see you next week. And remember to play all these 10 games. Till then, so long.